there, NDLers. It's been a while since we've had a Outliers podcast episode. Definitely my fault, trust me. Vic can vouch for that. Hello, Vic. How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. How you doing? Yes, I can vouch for that, man. It's been a rough one for you.
This is try number 2 today since I fell asleep again, and I think this is like the third day that we tried and I had failed. So at least we're gonna do some double dipping this week. We're gonna have a kind of a casual episode tonight, and then at the regular time on Friday we should be back to normal because I should be back to normal with work and all that good stuff. So
You can kind of call this episode the race to the CFP.
yep, because that's where most of the conversation is going to be. So I've missed out on a lot. I actually had to be filled in on quite a lot of stuff in the NDL because I've been out the loop for the last week, maybe week and a half. It's also why you haven't seen SportsCenter episode. I just haven't had the time to do it, but hopefully I will be able to get back to normal with that now. Things have kind of calmed down. But a lot has happened since I've been around. Looks like we got the latest rankings for the CFP, and we have a new team holding down that G5 spot. The last time, or the first iteration from the committee, had Central Michigan at that spot. The latest has FAU holding down the Group of 5 spot with Central Michigan behind them. And things have changed in the standings since then as well. Central Michigan taking a loss. That was probably a surprise. Definitely was a surprise to me when I heard about it. They lost to Northern Illinois, and FAU still remains undefeated. Vic, I'll give you the floor.
Definitely was a surprise to me, being that I watched it and being about what happened right before that game took place on NDL game day. If you hadn't checked out NDL game day, go ahead and check those guys out. Great listen, always a great listen. What happened in the Central Michigan game was a case of new coach syndrome. We have a new coach for the Northern Illinois Huskies, and he got off to an excellent start. He got up on Chip, I want to say 14-0, and then Chip scored, make it 14-7. Northern Illinois came back down, make it 21-7, and then Chip got a couple turnovers, turned that into a tie game at the half, and then proceeded to get shut out 28-0 in the second half. He was forced to pass, and that's not Bert Emanuel's strong suit. He threw 4 interceptions on the night, and that ends the undefeated streak in totality for Coach Chip. He has not lost in the MAC since having Central Michigan back in season 30, and this is his first conference loss. And not only does that blow up that streak, that blows up potentially his CFP chances.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the CFP here. It's definitely a tough loss, and we've talked about it some, especially at the beginning of the year. The concern in the MAC was what happens when those spots get filled, because it's talked about on game day as well. When you have a new coach coming in this late in the game cycle, it's probably someone that plays the game on a regular basis. So you're having someone who, if we're gonna, flip a coin and say they're good or not good in terms of skill, they're probably gonna be on the better end because they're still enjoying the game. They're still putting a lot of time into it. Those games are essentially trap games because you don't know what to expect. Most of us can, if you really wanted to do the work, you could go watch the VODs of your opponent, maybe get an idea of, well, who do they want to use here on defense? What type of offensive system do they run? Do they key on anyone? What type of defensive scheme do they run? How do they adjust to this? How do they play against someone who is a heavy, running attack? With a new coach, you don't get that luxury. You don't have really anything to go off of, so you're kind of going in blind, and you're trying to make adjustments on the fly to what you see. It can be very tough, very tough. So that's a hurtful loss, especially because he was so close to finishing the regular season undefeated. So that shifts the attention to the AAC. We were watching, before we got started tonight, Tulsa and Florida Atlantic. And Florida Atlantic is looking really good right now, Mr. Vic. They are 11-0. And that was an impressive win against Tulsa.
That they are. They are 11-0. 7-0 in conference. They just beat undefeated in conference Tulsa, who had an impressive victory early against East Carolina to go 5-0, and now they're 5-1 in conference. Florida Atlantic is the talk of the NDL. They score points in bunches. Let me tell you, the game against USF, points in bunches. He was down 21, came back within a hurry, got it tied, back and forth second half, kicked the field goal to win the game there. Back and forth contest yet again, down 28 to East Carolina. Scored 71 points. That were 140 plus points in total between both teams. That's like college basketball right there. Came back from 28 points down to go ahead and get the comeback victory. And then tonight, go ahead and have a dominating performance over this Tulsa team. Very impressive. I've been very impressed with Florida Atlantic. That is not the best of rosters at all. And he's making it work what he can. And that's all you can ask the coach. That's all you can ask the coach, especially a newer coach. Coach Jumper is a new coach. And that's all you can do. New coaches, most of the time, get the back of the line teams in the draft, especially if they come in right before the draft. So once you have those back of the line teams like a Florida Atlantic or a Charlotte, Tulsa, so on and so forth, you have to make do what you have on the roster. And he's taking full advantage of what he can do and potentially have a CFP berth if he can get through this last game and the conference championship.
Yeah, so his last game, just something that I wanted to bring up. He has scored, because I just had to do the math. He's averaging 55 points a game. He's the only coach, and I know that there's some other teams that aren't, that still need to get caught up on games that are scoring some points, but he's got 11 games. He scored 554 points. 554. Averaging 55 points a game. His last regular season game was against Charlotte. So something tells me with Charlotte's offense, he's probably going to have to put up some points. And, I mean, at this...
The total score on the over has to be 150 at this point.
Yeah, the score of that game is crazy. I just, anytime you score 50 points, I honestly would say anytime you score 45 points, maybe 40, but for sure 45, you expect to win. You scored 69 points and lost. That's like, you just walk away from that game and you're hurt. You have to be. Like, what more could you do? That should be enough to win any game, and it wasn't enough. Like, he's been able to find ways to win. The offense has been clicking. You've got Charlotte on the road, so he'll end the regular season on the road. If you can get through that, then you have a conference championship game, and then it brings up a conversation that we were having pre-show. So, you've got Tulane, who has a conference loss. You have South Florida, which is a big one, who has a conference loss. And the reason I say it's a big one is because they have already played against each other. And it was a 3-point game. No, 45-42 final. South Florida has Tulsa. So that's a common opponent game. And you still have that game from earlier in the season against Tulane. So, let's say, for the sake of the argument, Mr. Vic, that South Florida finishes the season 11-1. What happens in that conference championship game? Is it possible South Florida has a, I don't want to say dominating performance, but they have a really good outing and say they win by 2 scores? A 10 to 14 point victory, maybe 16-point victory over Florida Atlantic. Would that be enough in your eyes for them to jump over them in the CFP?
To jump over Florida Atlantic?
Yeah.
Yes. Because if you paid attention to that game, that could have easily have happened the first time. Like I said, the momentum and the wave of those turnovers really cost Coach Jokers and cost him the victory in that point, because he had the victory well in hand. That was a 21-point lead that he had. Now, I know these days in the NDL, 21, 24, 28, 20, 17-point leads go by the wayside very quickly. But to have a 21-point lead at any point in time, that lets you know what type of strong team you have. And that can happen again. So if he were to beat him by 14 points, or by 21, or by 17 points, you're right. He can jump FAU and Central Michigan, for that matter, and claim that CFP spot.
I find it really interesting, and I feel like this is one of those times where the Massey does a disservice, because it gives you a picture, but it doesn't give you the full context. And this is why I say this. Because we have VODs, you're able to go back and watch the game. So I think sometimes we get fixated on the score of this happened, look at the score, but you really need to get the context of what happened. Like, I can give an example. I'll use myself as an example. Rain just walked the floor with me, mopped the floor with me in the Notre Dame Florida State game. If you look at the score, it tells an accurate picture. But what happens if those scores came at the end of the game? Like, let's say, I think I lost 27-3, 28-3, no, 28, 35-7. Eventually I'll get it right. Still having PTSD from that game. I lose 35-7. 35-7 looks different depending on how it happened, He had 35 points at the end of the third quarter, I believe. Versus it's 21-7, and then you get 2 pick sixes in the last 3 minutes. So it's 2 totally different games. Because, yeah, you're up 21-7, you're in control, but you couldn't pull away. Versus and the final score is 35-7 because you get 2 pick sixes late in the game. Like, it doesn't tell the full story of the game. Versus what happened, he was in complete control from the very beginning. He's up 35-7 late in the third quarter. Like, he clearly had control for 3 quarters in the fourth quarter. If I were to have cleaned up the score some, it doesn't tell the story of what actually happened in the game. I feel like that might be something that happens if that scenario plays out. They both finished 12-1. So then you look at, okay, how did the 2 games between them play out? You have 8 quarters to look at that. 2 results, but 8 quarters to look at that. Then you start looking at common opponents that they had. They both will have played Charlotte. They both will have played Tulsa. So you start to look at those games and maybe, okay, how did those teams finish? What teams are on their schedule for starters, but then the common opponents, how did they play against them? Trying to, use that as something to differentiate the two teams with. I don't envy anyone that has to do that stuff, but I mean, we have the ability to do it now. We don't just have to look at the Massey rating and see, hey, the team is ranked A, this team is ranked B. We can use this as the deciding factor when we have so many other ways of being able to look at it, especially like being able to get a feel and really be able to tell the story of the game. I feel like having that helps a lot in trying to determine some of the differences between teams, especially when things are close.
Well, with that, like, you'll have to see if the committee even goes back and watches the game film on that. Like, we don't know what the committee is thinking right now. So we don't know if they're watching the games. We don't know if they're just looking at the score because, like you said, if you just look at the score tell you one thing, but you go back and look at the actual video, and like you said, it could have been 2 pick sixes at the end, or it could have been a 14-point game, but it was a pick six at the end of the half, and then that team received the ball at the beginning of the half and scored, and then you went back and forth the rest of the way, and those 14 points were the difference. We don't know if they're looking back on the video or not, but there is another team that could enter the race as well. Let's not forget about Tulane. Tulane is sitting up there with 1 loss, and if they can climb up, and I believe they are ranked as well in the top 25. I believe all 3 teams are ranked. I know Florida Atlantic, and I believe South Florida is still ranked, and Tulane is ranked as well. So if Tulane can overcome South Florida and then take their spot in the conference championship game and maybe win against Florida Atlantic, then they may overcome the odds and go ahead and take that CFP spot.
That's very true. Yeah, Tulane is 21, South Florida is 19, and Florida Atlantic is 18. But Tulane still, you're right, they still do have a path to the game. They have Navy at home. You have Rice on the road, which will be a sneaky one. And then you have that South Florida game. Like, ultimately, that South Florida Tulane game could really, at this point, be an elimination game between the two teams. Because I don't think with 2 losses, like 2 losses will put you out. You got a shot at going 12-1. Both teams do. So you need to get that win. That's a ranked win if you get it. And then potentially adding a second ranked win in the conference championship game, then you have to look at the resume. Yeah, Tulane is definitely not out the picture. Not at all. Nebraska playing well down the stretch would certainly help the cause. Yeah, Tulane's definitely not out of it. It's going to be fun to watch how things finish up in the AAC. It's been fun to watch them all season. Some really good coaches there, some fun games, high-scoring games. It's going to be a fun race, for sure.
Definitely a fun race. I can't wait to see how it plays out all the way through.
Yeah, and there's another team to bring up as well. They will have a big game down the stretch, Old Dominion. Shout out to them. I know they had a loss earlier. I know we really talked about this much before. I think you mentioned them pre-show. But he had the loss against Virginia. It was a rough loss. But he's sitting at 8-1. Still has had a great season. He was able to rebound really nicely after that loss. You always wonder sometimes what happens when you lose a game. Does it, do you get in your own head? Do you start changing stuff, or do you say, hey, this was working, we weren't able to get this working in this game, let's get back to what we were doing? and he's rebounded nicely, sitting at 8-1. He's going to have a big game against James Madison. Jason is back in the country. He'll get, you still have a couple of weeks to get games in. And he's sitting undefeated. Both teams are sitting undefeated in conference play. Obviously, Old Dominion farther ahead at 6-0. James Madison at 2-0. And, Jason is a vet. I know that is not the greatest school to play with, but veteran knowledge still could make that a very tricky game. But Old Dominion, and they have a path to going 11-1 and possibly 12-1. How do you feel about them?
I feel real good about ODU. I was a part of the crew that commentated the game against Marshall. That was the game was Marshall versus ODU. And I was a part of that commentary team that commentated that game. That game was very back and forth. ODU came out with the victory. Devin Roche woke up out of bed, as Coach Pryor would say, and he stood on business and definitely ran it up, down, sideways, every which way on the Marshall defense. He could not be stopped. Now, the defense really couldn't stop Coach Sargent over there and Marshall, because the score was 45-42, and Marshall had the ball last, driving down the field. So what happened was he had a catch. Now they started the drive with about 30 some odd seconds left with the timeout. He got to midfield in one play, but he dove on the ground. If he would have just kept running, probably would have had a clear shot at a field goal for sure, if not a touchdown. But he fell to the ground. And then ensuing 2 or 3 plays after, really couldn't get down the field because he had to take the time out once he got to midfield. So he didn't really have a shot at a game time field goal. And that's how that ended.
Man.
He still has a game against James Madison, and he has a game against Arkansas State left to complete the schedule, but I can definitely see him going 11-1 down the stretch here, and potentially, but he does have a hard opponent if he does go to the conference championship game. Coach Ninja with the Louisiana Raging Cajuns is 5-0 in the Sun Belt West, and if they slip up, Coach Jay Willie and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles are on fire. They took out Marshall. They took out South Alabama. They just took out Northern Illinois, who was on fire from the Central Michigan win from Saturday. So both of those teams are very worthy and can put up points against ODU and that ragged defense that they have. That defense is terrible.
You're not kidding about that. Man, I don't ever like to really pick favorites, but it would be really cool, like just for me. Like I've enjoyed watching Ninja Nano when he was at Stanford. He had some really memorable games.
I did not enjoy that.
Fair enough. Well, I'll enjoy it for the both of us then, or at least for me.
He's he is a great coach. The inside joke on that one is when he was with Stafford, I was with San Jose State, and that was one of my rivals, and he kicked my ass. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, he's a really solid player. One thing that I love to see when I think this is one of the things that makes me really enjoy the Group of 5 teams versus the Power 4. And I like both, don't get me wrong, but the Group of 5 is just different. I feel like it's where when you have the SEC, it's hell. Okay, you've got in general, the power conferences, I want to say the Big Ten. I don't want to throw any shade on anyone. I love the Big Ten. It's just when you have the power conferences, the focus is always going to be on them because you have really, really talented teams and teams that we all know really well because these are teams that we pay attention to. Like me as a Nebraska fan, I'm always paying attention to the Big Ten, but I'm always paying attention to SEC. You know, seeing who's competing for a championship. Same with the Big 12, same with the ACC. Like that's just what we do, and Notre Dame. But with a group of five, it's just different. Like your goals, you're expecting coming in, you're not competing for a championship, so that's already off the board. But the teams are so different. The skill gap in terms of you really have to know teams well, or you have to know your opponents well. Instead of just having like uber talented teams like you have in the SEC, you go to a conference like Conference USA or the Mountain West. Some players or some teams have specific players that stand out, but a lot of it is you have to figure out, okay, these are the limitations of this team. So how can I hide them? Or how can I make my strengths show even more? And I like that for a lot of coaches because when you get in these conferences, you get an opportunity to shine. So I say all this to say I would really love for Ninja Nano to be able to make it to the conference championship game and have an opportunity to play for a conference championship.
I think he is. Like I said, he's been pretty dominant. If you look at his schedule, like I say, he's 5-0, 6-3 overall, but 5-0 in conference. I mean, it would have 1-4 out of conference, but he's beating UAB, lost closer than what people may think to Arkansas. He does have a bad loss, but Louisiana Tech is very good. I can attest to that. Louisiana Tech is very good. Coach Scoop over there, Rustin, he's definitely coaching them up. Lost to the number 12 team in the nation in LSU, so that's nothing to sneeze at. Then after that, like I said, he's taking off. Wins over Southern Miss, who's on fire. Like one of the teams that's most on fire right now is Southern Miss. As far as a hot streak goes, beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Beat Texas State, beat Arkansas State, and beat South Alabama that we were high on at the beginning of the season. They beat them by 3 touchdowns as well. They do have the Battle of the Bayou with Monroe coming up and Troy coming up as well, and App State as well. They have those 3 games to look forward to, but I believe they can go 8-0 in conference and face ODU, and I feel like that's a good matchup.
Oh yeah.
And the styles of both coaches, like Coach Ninja Nano can really get after it defensively, so he's gonna really challenge ODU and Devin Roche, I'm sorry. And because once you get Roche in space, he's hard to cover. He's so shifty, so jukey, so herky-jerky that it's hard to get him down once he's in space. So it'll be a great thing to see the coaching adjustments that Coach Ninja Nano will have to do against Coach Powder there in the conference championship.
Yeah, like I know we'll definitely look forward to the AAC title game for sure. But of the potential games of the group of 5 championship matchups, this would be a really fun one to watch. To the point I would say if it's on a weekend, that'd be great. I'd love to watch it and commentate it. That could be a fun experience for us.
Oh yeah, I would love to commentate. I would love to commentate that one. I would love to commentate the American as well. We should try to do both of those.
Oh, I'd be down. It just has to be on the weekend. Clearly, you see with my sleep. It has to be on the weekend. There's no hope if it's during the week. Oh man.
And I want to give out a special shout out to Coach CG over there at Georgia State, he just lost to Missouri in the Beefy Cup round of 32. For him to get that far with Georgia State, round of 32, almost making the Sweet 16 there. Lost 45 to 31 in the Beefy Cup here tonight. What a run. What a run by that guy. What a run by that coach. And what a run by that team. He was outscoring everybody. Beat, I believe, 2 or 3 Power 4 conference teams along the way in the Beefy Cup. So shout out to him for having a hell of a run through the Beefy Cup with Georgia State.
Yeah, he has wins against Iowa on the road, Texas A&M on the road, and then Rutgers in the round of 32. Or sorry, round of 64. So that's impressive.
You know how hard it is to get a win at College Station? Really?
Yeah.
With Georgia State, that is impressive.
And I can definitely speak to Iowa being tough. I know people may feel a certain kind of way about the Big Ten, but I had Tulane last season. Like, I'm just talking about in terms of home field advantage. I'm not throwing a shade Big Ten. Please don't take it that way. I'm just saying home field advantage because we have the universal agreement that the SEC road games are hell. Iowa is not fun.
I be trying to tell the chat all the time. SEC road games are different.
They are, and for you to get a win against Texas A&M, that's impressive because you have severe limitations to what you can do, what you can adjust. Iowa's tough too because their defense is stout, and that home field advantage can be annoying as well. And to go in there and put up 20 points against that defense is very impressive. So yeah, great run by CG. Well, let's shift the topic. There's a couple topics I still want to bring up before we get to the Cougars. I wanted to bring up the Mountain West because it's been quite a... I don't even know what to make of the Mountain West. I feel like we were all really happy. The coolest thing going into the draft was how many people stayed in the Mountain West. You had so many returning coaches. Everyone, like they jokingly call themselves the retirement community of the NDL, and a lot of guys coming back like super pumped. Also, CG says hello, so hopefully CG heard your shout out, Big.
Hopefully, I told him in the chat I was going to shout him out. Hopefully he did hear that. I did shout you out, man.
And well deserved. The Mountain West roller coaster definitely would be the way to describe it because we were high on San Diego State to start the season, and rightfully so. Back-to-back reigning Mountain West champs. Boise State, back-to-back. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3. I think it's 2. I don't know. I played against Genty more than I ever want to. I don't want to play any more running backs.
It's back-to-back highs.
Okay.
Back-to-back highs.
I've had enough of Genty. I'm sure the Mountain West feels the same way too. It is. Let me tell you, if you have not played Ashton Genty, it is an experience. It's an experience you deserve to have. So that once it's over, you can join the rest of the Mountain West and how much they appreciate the fact this man was drafted to the Raiders. Like, please get out of this game. It is 4 quarters of hell.
They can join us as well. We have played against Genty too. We have played against Genty when he had his abilities as well. So yeah, that part.
Yeah, is.
He wants Surfboard, my lineman, and his lineman into the end zone.
I believe it. I'm friends with IROC in real life, so I try to be around to watch his games and vice versa, and some of the things that happen with him are just ridiculous. I've never, and I'm talking about as a a vet in Madden playing with Adrian Peterson or against Peterson, Derrick Henry, Mike Allstott. Just some of the things that Genchi does is just ridiculous. So yeah, the Mountain West has been a roller coaster. You have Jeff Daddy, who's pass happy, and we love that. Jay Pono is 3-5 right now. You have New Mexico. I was really high on Coach Barras to start the year, especially because he was returning back. But I understand that that defense is cheeks. It's the second worst rated defense in the game, and I was hoping that he would be able to, when you're with the team for a while, it's like, this team may suck in certain areas, but you just find ways to hide it, or just you're able to find things to make it not be as bad. I don't know how really else to put that. You're just able to kind of hide some of the deficiencies, but it's been a struggle for him this season. But I know they, honestly, on paper, New Mexico's defense is pretty trash. San Jose State, it's hard UNC Hill pulling off a big win last block, or this block. And he's returning, and like he almost, I think he went 6-6 last season. I played him in a bowl game, a really fun game, and he's sitting at 4-5 right now. But just the way that the Mountain West has played out, no one expected this. San Diego State struggling to start the season, and then picking up an early conference loss. Boise State completely struggling out of conference. They had like 4 of their losses are out of conference, but playing well in conference play. UNLV 7-2, 3-1 in conference play. Like, I don't even know what to make of this conference right now.
This conference is wild. You go from 4-1, Coach Ira, to, and shout out my guy, Beer Cobb, who is 2-2 in conference, but is 2-7 overall. That's how up and down this conference is, and he still has an outside shot. If he can get a couple wins, he has an outside shot at really making noise in conference. Like, this conference could potentially have a 3-loss champion. You can have Coach Dak over there in Wyoming as well, 3-2, right behind Coach Rain and Coach Ira in the standings with Wyoming. You got Big Z, that's 5-4, 2-2. Coach Ank over there in the Air Force, that's 4-5 and 2-2. It's a roller coaster.
Oh yeah, and there's still some impactful games left. You have UNLV, who's going to be taking on both San Jose State and San Diego State. San Diego State will be on the road playing at Snapdragon. Home game against San Jose State. So just the loss to, San Diego State's just had such a bizarre season. The loss to Hawaii, and then losing to Boise State, and you're thinking they're done, but they're not. Like, they still have a path to getting themselves right back in. You get a win against UNLV. That certainly helps, because that will give them their second conference loss. I don't even want to deal with the headache of the tiebreakers. I'll wait until more games are played. I don't even want to deal with that right now. Boise State will play Wyoming, so potentially either Wyoming gets a third loss or Boise State falls back into the 2-loss pack. There's just so much left that could possibly happen. It's it's gonna be funny to watch how this plays out. Oh man.
You can possibly go all the way to at least, I want to say, Air Force, because they still have San Diego State and Fresno State left on the schedule, and they beat Wyoming. They they did not have to play UNLV or Boise. They did lose to San Jose State, so that could be something. But at least about 4 to 5 teams still have a shot at the conference championship game, which
Yeah.
is impressive and kind of crazy at the same time.
Yeah, because it'd just be like, first of all, shout out to the conference commissioners. They have to deal with these headaches of tiebreakers. We're just going to take that inside right now. We were talking about this pre-show. I hate these jumbo conferences so much, and here's why. Conference USA and the Sun Belt. Or sorry, not Conference USA. Man, I can't remember. We'll just go with the Sun Belt. We'll just make this easy. The Sun Belt has divisions. When you have divisions, at least you know. The conference is separated in half. You're playing everyone in your division. So when it comes to head, it's really cut and dry. You play Team X, who won. Done. If it's a 3-team tie, that's a whole nother conversation. Well, it depends how it plays out. But it really sucks when you have conferences like this, because with the Mountain West, a couple seasons ago, it had to go to the CFP committee, and they had to rank the teams because the ultimate tiebreaker was who has the highest ranking in the CFP. Because these teams aren't playing each other. It's just a headache, both in the power and in the group of 5 conferences, when you have to go 5 tiebreakers down because, like, okay, well, here's this tiebreaker. Well, we have 5 teams or 4 teams tied. Well, 2 of the teams played a team, so we can't use that team. 3 of the teams played this team, can't use that team. It just makes it a huge nightmare. At least with divisions, it's not perfect, but at least it makes it a little bit easier, because head-to-head it at least can for sure be a factor. If it's 2 teams, it's done. If it's 3 teams, it depends. It could be done. Just having to go through the headache of all this stuff is insane. Hate it so much.
Speaking of the Mountain West and tiebreakers and such, 2 of the teams we talked about are playing right now. UNLV is up on San Diego State 24-21 in the third quarter.
Oh. Well, I'm opening
So
another
something,
tab, so
so
keep an
so
eye on that.
something, so something is gonna get decided later on tonight. We might not be on. We probably won't be on, but that's gonna definitely get decided for our next episode.
Yeah. The Mountain West Commissioner probably be watching that with a close eye. I feel bad for the commissioners, because they're the ones that have to go through and deal with all this crap. We just play our games. They have to do. Got to get the meme with the equation and all that stuff popping up on the screen. I feel like that's what they have to do for some of these, and it sucks. But hey, that's what they get the bonus points for. Got to earn them. Yeah, Mountain West will be fun though. And we'll touch on one more topic, and then we'll leave the other conferences for later. Sorry, I know you're in the Conference USA, but I'm not mentally prepared just yet. But we'll get to them.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it. Jacksonville State is on a very good run right now. In Conference USA, they are undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
In Conference USA, 4-1, 5-1 overall. I know he just took a vacation. I have a game with him later on this week. We'll probably play Wednesday, Thursday, 1 of the 2. Right behind him is Louisiana Tech, Coach Scoop, and Coach AK and UTEP. Them and the coach at Liberty, they're all battling for second place right now. You have Coach Ack at UTEP at 4-2, Louisiana Tech at 4-2, and Liberty at 2-2 right now.
Well, I can tell you, going through and doing the Sports Center stuff, trying to make sure that some of those Group of Five games are on there, show some love. It's really fun watching Conference USA. Got to see Scoot play a couple of games. Got to see Maverick. I know I was high on him at the beginning of the season. He's still, competing to try to get a bowl spot. He's 3-6 right now, but those are two coaches that have had some really fun games to watch. Like sometimes it's kind of trying to skim through the highlights and see, okay, how did you score and how did you get the ball to score? Were there any big plays on the drive? But I find myself maybe not as much now being back at work, but pre-work just kind of sitting back and watching like, man, these games are actually really fun. Guys have some really solid guys in your conference.
As a part of that conference, even though I'm on the tailspin personally, it's still fun. Being a G5 school is very fun. Like you said, there's no pressure in conference. There's no pressure in being in the playoff or having to win a national championship or anything like that. You're just out there having fun. Yeah, it's a spot on the line, a CFP spot, but at the end of the day, you're just having fun. You're just hoping to make a bowl and do a little damage across the way.
Yeah, one thing I've found fun in my time in Group of Five schools is the conference pride. Like, no offense to the power schools, but I just feel like it's just stronger in the Group of Five because out of conference, you're all rooting for each other because you want your conference to be represented well. You want people to, you want that spotlight. Like, hey, look at us. We've got a good group of guys here. And then once you get to conference play, it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad you had a good out of conference. See you on the field. But then when you get back to bowl games, it's right back to it. Like, hey, you're rooting for your fellow conference mates to try to go out there and win the bowl game, have your conference have a winning record. It's like, hey, look at what we did. I just feel like yeah, I know Power 4 schools are prideful with that as well, but I feel like just the general focus in the regular season is different at a Power school than it is with a Group of Five school. Just that camaraderie, I feel, is a lot stronger with the Group of Five guys.
Definitely, it is stronger because we're naturally the underdog. So it's like we're not favored in any Group of Five versus Power 4 matchup. We're highly underdog. So if one of us does come out with the win, no matter if it's in the cup or if it's during the season, we're all rooting for each other in conference. Especially those out of conference games against the big time schools.
Oh yeah, I could say just me personally. I know a lot of people felt that way too. We like upsets, because it just makes things more interesting when you have them. But last season, Old Dominion against Georgia. No offense, D Kane. Like I love D
I
Kane.
almost called that one. I almost called that one. I knew the game was going to be close. I knew the game was going to be close.
Like I don't know if we'll ever get one of those, but I know as a Group of Five guy, if I'm coaching a Group of Five school, I would love. Like, you just feel like you have half the league rooting for you just by default. If you get that spot to try to pull off upset, it's going to be tough. But man,
I would say this: there could be a chance this year. It would have been a greater chance this year if Chip didn't lose, because that's a whole theory that I had going from last episode was maybe two Group of Five teams getting in. That increases the chances of one of them winning. But even now, it's still a chance. But I feel like that fifth seed is going to be just a rough opponent for the Group of Five representatives.
yes. Just yes. I have no other answer. It's just yes. We'll still have.
Because that's potentially Texas or Alabama filling that fifth seed spot more than likely. They're
That's
gonna have
terrifying.
that fifth seed spot, and that is definitely terrifying for a team like a Florida Atlantic or Tulane or South Florida or even a Central Michigan. That's gonna get complicated real fast if we have to play one of those schools.
And then I've been out the loop for a little bit, but I know there have been conversations about Oregon. But let me tell you something. If you're a group of five school playing Oregon, that game is still going to be hell because the speed that Oregon has is not something that you are ever going to see in a group of five matchup. So that even if there is no preferred opponent, it's an uphill battle either way. Whoever you get, and it's going to be against a great coach too. So you have to deal with being overmatched in terms of talent, and then having a really great coach controlling that team too. So man, it's going to be some uphill sledding for sure.
Oh, for sure. No matter who that fifth seed is, it's gonna be one hell of a fifth seed. So it's definitely gonna be rough for that group of five representative.
Well, since we touched on Conference USA, I feel like we at this point we might as well just go, full circle. We've talked about every other conference but one, the one we started the show with, talking about Chip. So let's go back to the MAC. I don't know what to make of I still feel that Chip is going to get one of those conference championship spots. I know he has a loss. You have Akron, who is 2-0. Duvid hits bombs. He's a new guy in the league. Northern Illinois is undefeated as well. They do play each other. I just refuse to believe that there's a way that we go through this and Chip isn't in the conference championship game. So I'm operating on that train of thought. You think Northern Illinois gets that other spot and we get a rematch?
That
They just have so many games to play because there's a lot of newer coaches coming in, so they're trying to make up games.
the new coach theory does come into play with that one. I believe, from what I've seen from both coaches, um, man, that's a tough. I would have to see Duvid more. I've played Duvid in the scrimmage, and he was very good. He was very good. We had fun. We really had fun with it, and he's a very good coach. So I can see he has so many games to go though. It's Coach Shoddy over in Buffalo. He's a good coach too. I've scrimmaged him as well. He has so many games. He got Penn State, Toledo, Western Michigan, Louisiana Monroe. He has a lot of games left. So I don't know if he can get through all of them, but if he can get through all of them and then face Northern Illinois, that'd be a matchup. I think Northern Illinois would come out on top, being that they're the better team overall. But it'll be close. It'll be a close game. But as far as the MAC conference is concerned, Chip is definitely getting one of those spots. I believe it'll be a rematch between Northern Illinois and Central Michigan.
It'd be really entertaining if it was, because just seeing the adjustments that Chip would make for a second game. Like you figure, whenever you get a chance to play a team a second time, in most cases for general purposes, you might get a rematch in a bowl game. So you're like, okay, what happened in the first game? What worked? What didn't work? The onus is always on the loser to make the adjust or the loser to make adjustments because something didn't work. In general, that's how it works. You take what didn't work, try to fix it, and then the other person is going to have to adjust on the fly. So you have a little bit of an advantage there. Chip's obviously a really good coach. He knows his team really well. I would look forward to seeing a rematch, but just in general with the MAC, there's just so many conference games left to play because both Northern Illinois and Akron have only played two. Chips played six. You have two teams with four. Sorry, three teams with four that are like still kind of in the mix. It's just a lot of games. I wonder, what happens in terms
And,
potentially Sims having an impact in that conference.
and potentially, but we do have the extra week for this last week
Pause week.
to get those. Yeah, so we do have that extra week to get the games in there. So I believe they will get most of the games in. They will try to get most of the games in. So it won't be a bunch of sims, and especially if you have like a fair sim loss, that'd be kind of crazy. But hopefully they get all their games in with this extra week that has been added to the last week of the season.
It would be nice. Well, there is one other topic to touch then. So we've got to talk about all the conferences, and we'll get to do that a little bit more going forward. One other thing that we do have to talk about that we want to talk about last episode, but we didn't, so we can do it now. Spotlight for Washington State. So, at the time, of course, things have to change because things would never be easy. It's the life in the NDL. You have they were undefeated, and it's like, no one's bringing them up at all, and we know that they would get an at-large bid, and generally looked at as a group of five. But then they had the loss to San Diego State. Because why wouldn't things ever be easy for anyone? What are you thinking about Washington State?
I think they did not benefit off the Mountain West this year because we talked about how much of a roller coaster that is. The Mountain West per se. Um, so they did not benefit. Strength of schedules in the hundreds. Their Massey rating is pretty high though, but not enough games to just really stand out. And they didn't go extra hard out of conference. They kind of just stay stagnant and try to trust the process with the Mountain West teams that they had, being that they may have thought that those Mountain West teams would be stronger than what they are. But being as it may right now and the roller coaster that is the Mountain West, um, I feel like that Washington State is just where they are right now. They could go higher. If the apocalypse happened and everybody loses another game, like if Chip loses another game, if the American has a two-loss conference champion instead of one loss or undefeated conference champion, if ODU breaks down or anything like that, and all these other teams in the power conferences kind of break down and get 3 and 4 losses, then there is a way that Washington State could get in to the CFP. Because, like, looking at their schedule, like I said, they in a non-conference they had Toledo, they had Marshall, which is a sibling rivalry in itself, and they had Washington in the Apple Cup. And they have Oregon State, which isn't bad themselves. Oregon State is 6-4, so that isn't that bad themselves. So we'll have to see what happens with them, but they are one of the strongest cases to go 11-1.
It's just it's so weird, man. Because the Mountain West, I I don't understand what happened this season. I Maybe it's the fourth season. It's that last season curse that we have, which would have been season three. I don't know. It's because there's so many games, like you said, so many games tied with Washington State with them. I I just don't know what to think.
Because usually in the past couple seasons, the Mountain West has been very strong. And if Washington State had the season 30 Mountain West that I believe had a playoff team and or put well almost a playoff team, we didn't have one. And season 31 Mountain West, if they had those versions of the Mountain West, then their resume would look a lot stronger for the committee's eyes. But unfortunately, they have season 32 Mountain West, and those teams aren't as highly thought of or considered as past seasons.
For sure. You had, San Diego State, tough losses to Miami, tough losses to Indiana. Boise State struggled out of conference. Fresno State got off to a good start to begin the season, but this in the second half of the season just hasn't went as well. Like UNLV is playing well, overall 7-2. It's just not what you really have to hope for that when you're one of the things the group of five. You need two things. One, you need your conference to play well out of conference because you need kind of what's going on with the AAC where, hey, Tulsa's had a good season, Charlotte's had a good season. Obviously, Jumper, Jokers, West, they've had great seasons too. But it's not just them. You need the other guys in your conference to really be able to shine too, because that really brings the spotlight onto your conference. Two,
Yeah, with I feel like it has happened in a lot of seasons. Like you had a deep Mountain West in season 30. You had a deep, I want to say, Sunbelt in season 31. And now you have a deep American Conference in season 32.
yeah, it really helps because it's when you start to break down a resume, there's a lot of ways that you can go about it. One of the things that you're going to look at is who did you beat? And when you start looking at the teams you beat, the next question is what did they do? And when those teams are able to pick up wins too, it makes that win look better. Two is the out of conference. And it's always a tricky one because you're not sure what you're getting all the time. And I say that as in saying like we start the season and you look at I'll just pull Michigan State as an example because not Nebraska, Tulane beat Michigan State, and you're like, man, you got to win against a power school, but you still need that power school to play well. Like it's better than a group of five school for sure, but if that power school doesn't have a great season, that win doesn't look as good. You only have so much control of the two. You do the best you can, and then you just have your resume, and this is what you can offer to the committee, and then they're going to make the decision based off of that.
That's true. That's true. It is. It can be complicated with those resumes because you have to beat a certain opponent at the time that they're at their peak. So if you beat a team and they somehow was ranked that block or anything like that, and you catch them, and then you can ride that win all the way to the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
As being for the opposite route, whereas you catch a team, you play them, they're not ranked, or they were ranked, and then you beat them, and then they have a horrible rest of the season, then that win doesn't look as good in the eyes of the committee as a win versus maybe a ranked non-conference opponent or a soon to be ranked conference opponent if they take their loss with pride and then win out the rest of the season.
Yeah. First, there's two last things I want to offer up to you here. One, so we know Florida Atlantic would hold, as things stand today, they would hold the CFP spot. We still have a ways to go. How many teams do you think? You don't even have to give me the name, but in terms of number, how many teams do you think are still in the mix for that spot?
Uh, I want to say four. Four.
Okay.
As of right now, four. What about you?
We're probably thinking the same four. I don't know why I just said no, don't give like not give the names because we're obviously probably thinking the same schools. The three in the AAC ship. He's still not
Yeah,
out of it yet.
yeah.
I the thing that sucks about Washington State that I forgot to mention is they don't have a conference championship game. That really kind of hurts because it's just that extra. Like it's so to me when it comes to your season, you always want to finish strong because it's the last thing you want people to have a good lasting memory of you. And that conference championship, that would really be an extra, boon to help you out. And not having that really sucks. That'll change in the future. But just in this moment, knowing that other teams will get an opportunity for a 13th game to leave an extra, put something extra on the resume, and you just have to kind of, almost like extra credit in a sense. You just have to turn in your exam. That's it. They're extra credit. They're getting an opportunity to get some extra points because they're going to, they have another game to play.
That's true. That's why if you're Washington State in the upcoming game, I would think you would want to schedule pretty tough
I,
to avoid any of this from happening again.
yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier too because you're not tied. We're assuming you're not going to be tied as heavily to the Mountain West. I'm sure there's probably some coaches that Tim would want to play that he's used to playing their fun games, but it's just different when you have the full schedule or most of the schedule to say, hey, I get to make with it as I want, as opposed to, well, you have more out of conference games than a usual team, but you're really tied to them having to do well because you have to play these teams and you need them to play well in order for it to look good.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then I'll give a shout out to just on the outs, like just on the outside. I'll add a 15. I think you'll probably agree with me at the moment. It would be Old Dominion.
I do agree with you with that. Yeah. They're still they're hovering around the top 25. I see the votes, the other receiving votes for them, so they still have a shot at it as well.
And then the last thing. So I didn't tell you this. I probably should have told you this before this started, but again, this is how out the loop I've been. So I got a message from Andy on Discord probably early. maybe not early. It definitely would have been before we would have did episodes, so probably like Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. He asked about doing a ranking, like a bracket, I guess per se, of group of five teams. So we're not going to do it
Mm.
'cause I'm not prepared for it. But thinking about it also made me think about the NIT, and it's something that I'll run by him as that the end of the season gets closer. Because I have no problem doing a ranking. Like we could probably go like 1 to 15, do something like that. But I know he said for the NIT it probably won't be as many brackets as it was last season, and also probably single elimination. I saw that today. How would you feel about a group of five NIT bracket?
I would love it. I would actually love it. I feel like we're heading that way in real life. I feel like with football only. Um, I feel like we're gonna have the CFP for the Power Four, and maybe, all pun intended, an outlier of a group of five that's just been dominant the whole year that they can get in. Because I still feel like they're gonna have the one spot for the group of five for future iterations of the CFP, a 14, maybe 16 team CFP. I feel like it's still going to be that one spot for the group of five. But I ultimately feel in real life when it comes to football that it's going to be the CFP for the Power Four, and then they're going to create a tournament to see who in a NIT like tournament to see who's the best of the group of five. And why not us here at the NDL beat them to the punch by having the NIT for the group of five and then having the CFP?
Yeah, because the more I thought about it, like when I was thinking about what Andy said, and the more I thought about it, I haven't touched base with him since. But I like it, especially for two reasons. One, we have a great group of coaches in the group of five, always. You're always going to have, some standout coaches, some players that have had standout seasons. And yes, you have a bowl game that gives you a nice sanction, we'll say, because it does count for points. For those of you that may not know, if you're new to the league, qualifying for a bowl gets you 4 bonus points in the season success, and winning it gets you 6. And then if you have a low win goal, there's potential extra points for qualifying for a bowl. Like if you have a win goal of 2. I don't remember what that number is off the top of my head, but you get, and it's going to be a random matchup, so you don't even know who you'd be matched up against. It could be good luck you're facing a power four team, or it could be another group of five opponent. But I think it would be cool because it's just you're competing against teams of like skill level. And I think that's when you really get to see the best of what, in terms of gameplay, of what the NDL has to offer. You take away and yeah, teams will be stronger or weaker in certain areas, so you do have that chess match. But I feel like it really puts the coach front and center. Teams are of equal value or close to equal value. Now, what can you two do in this game? What can you come up with? What can you scheme up? What adjustments do you make? That's what I really find fun to watch. It's not so much the high scoring, it's, man, guys running the ball really well. How do I adjust to stop the run? Okay,
Yeah,
we can slow the running game down now. So now the onus is on the other coach. Well, now am I going to sprinkle in some play action to, punish you for this? Can I scheme up some plays to take advantage of how many guys you have in the box? Like that's what I really enjoy, the coaching aspect of
yeah, I do too. The adjustments, the styles, the schemes, because it's always, especially in the group of five, it's always a clash of styles. Like one coach may like the no huddle while the other coach grounds and pounds. Or you could have a Jeff Daddy who throws it all over the lot, compared to someone that's running one of the military academies who's running a triple option. So it's different coaches, different styles, different schemes all over the G5.
Yeah. I think it would be a cool idea. We'll have to see how many people are going to be playing in the NIT and like kind of seeing how it breaks out. 'Cause I know in the past Andy did it. Last season it was the brackets were tiered based on a mix of the talent of your school, on paper, the roster,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then combine that with the season that you had. So I definitely look forward to seeing what what happens. That I think that'd be pretty cool to just give, your own the group of five its own ability to, shine in a showcase, which is always a nice thing to have for the little guys.
Yeah, it's always good to have that. And like I said, I feel like that's gonna happen in real life, so we might as well get started on that right now in the NDL. They could look at our NIT and copy it.
I agree. Just make sure that, NDO gets credit for it. Get those eyes out there.
True, true.
All right. Last thought. Well, an extra thought. So this whole time about my microphone, I actually figured out what it was like 55 minutes into the show.
Oh Lord.
I can't believe it. Somehow it got I was trying to figure out this whole time what was going on, and somehow in Discord, so my stream stuff is accurate, which is what I always figure it is, because that's always where the problem is. The issue was in Discord, somehow it got switched onto my webcam, which isn't even on.
Mm.
Unbelievable. This is why
That's
I hate
crazy.
technology. Like, it literally took me like 3/4 of this podcast to figure out that's what caused the problem. So this
Well,
was
at least you was able to figure it out.
yeah. So for anyone listening, I apologize for the beginning 50 minutes or so because I could not figure out what it was. Unbelievable. And I hate updates on computers. They always mess something up,
I always mess them
and it's
up. An
always
update,
something different.
update is always gonna mess you up.
This is why I keep snoozing updates until I'm at a point where I know I don't have to do anything and then I have time to figure it out.
I'm actually the opposite on that. I pretty much hit update as soon as it's ready to update. I'm one of the first people to update anything, computer, work computer, phone, whatever. If it says update, oh yeah, we about to take that update right now. I'll be one of the first ones.
I don't blame you. Just get it out the way.
Just get it out the way. Pretty much.
Well, that was thought number one. I just had to get that in because we're probably going to laugh about this after I end the recording. But number two is, as mentioned before, we're going to have another episode regularly, like we do on Fridays. We're going to have another episode. So as more games get played, cool. Uh, we're also going to continue because just because the regular season is over doesn't mean we're done. We have conference championship games to cover, which is really nice because we can just focus on 5 games. So those
Exactly.
teams will be spotlighted. Potentially, if we can get an opportunity to commentate those games, we will. We have bowl games that we have to cover, and that's for those of you guys that are newer to the league, bowl games tend to have a longer window to get played because they're kind of in line with the college football playoffs. Each round is X amount of days. There's multiple rounds because it's a 12-team bracket. So you have that entire time to get bowl games in. So we'll periodically be checking in and seeing how the group of 5 teams perform in the bowl. And it's May 19th. We're not that far away from the release of the game. So as things get closer, maybe we'll be talking
We
draft
def
strategy,
we
getting a
definitely
peek at the
will.
rosters.
I can't wait for the draft special. That That's one of those ones. That's a special episode because we're going to be talking about all the teams, not just the G5. We're gonna focus on that. Don't worry. We're gonna focus on them. Which G5 teams you should want to pick and everything like that. We're gonna hit those, but we're gonna cover everybody, especially when those ratings come out for the next game, which should be, I want to say, a week or two after the end of season 32. Those ratings should come out.
Yeah, I'll be doing a lot of homework, and I think at that point, man, I can't believe we haven't had a guest on this whole time. I mean, it's my fault because I've been having like really inconsistent schedule, especially the last couple of weeks. The last two episodes have been brutal of you having to lock me down to a time, especially this one. Like I'll be honest, I never thought this episode was gonna happen. Like, good Lord, like we're just gonna have to skip to the next episode, this next Friday at this point, because we tried to do a Saturday, or
We
tried to do it a
did.
Sunday,
We did.
fell asleep. Like just it's just a no win. So
No win scenario, but we could try to have a guest on Friday. I can see if I can get somebody on Friday, one of the particulars on Friday.
well, I can assure you that my sound will be good. And I'm also off on Friday. So there should be no reason
I'm off on
why
Friday too. So we may have to do that podcast very early in the day.
that works for me. Just get it done and over with. And hey, at least on Discord, worst case scenario, blow up my phone with a Discord call.
Yeah, I don't like calling people, so it's like
Sorry,
I'd
I'll
rather just text and be like, "Hey, you up?" I don't really bother calling people.
fair enough, fair enough. And then one last thing. Those show's gone on a little bit longer. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this. So I plan on getting a Switch 2. This is really random. I plan on getting a Switch 2. And Madden or EA already discussed having games coming over to the Switch 2. Madden will, FC or FIFA, whichever people would prefer to call it, is coming over as well. I was very surprised to see that they aren't bringing over college football. Do you think it ever touches the Switch 2, or is it just going to be exclusive to PlayStation and Xbox?
That's a tough question because when bec- see that's the thing because I feel like it's a I, all right. See, with the Switch One, I feel like there was a drop off in graphics when you went from handheld mode to TV mode. Like what once you were in TV mode playing the Switch, you had good graphics. But once you went into handheld mode, the quality of the graphics were kind of bad. Not saying it's going to be like that for the Switch too, but I don't think EA, especially for a newer title that's going on its second year now, I don't think EA is equipped to have it on the Switch yet. Because I believe it's not even going to be on PC, I don't think either. Again, NCAA 26. I don't think it's going to be on PC either. So I think they're kind of working the kinks and the bugs out when it comes to PC or Switch because it can be very buggy once you go into handheld mode and the graphics change.
Yeah, it's as a big MLB The Show guy, I play a ton of baseball. Like I don't want to admit the amount of hours that I played on the last couple of versions. The playing it on the Switch was hugely, hugely inferior. And I understand because you're comparing the PS4 to the stick with PlayStation. You're comparing a PS4 to the Nintendo Switch, and there's a massive drop off.
But
So
you would
you
think
had like two separate versions.
you would think the Switch, once you put it on the TV, I guess you would call it standalone. You would have it on the standalone and have it switch to the TV. You would think that the graphics would mirror PS4 or Xbox One at a time, but it didn't. As a person who had a Switch, if you didn't have certain type of games, it didn't hit the same. Like playing 2K and like you said, playing MLB the show, I had I want to say 22 or 23, whatever cover Shohei Ohtani was on, I had that for the Switch. That was the last time I had a Switch was during that run for that game. So I played MLB the show, and like you said, it's quite the drop off from an Xbox or a PS4, PS5 to a Switch. Hopefully, they can work out the kinks with the Switch too. But if not, then it's kind of like they need to reevaluate what kind of system they're having over there at Nintendo. Because if it's a Nintendo game, the graphics are seamless between if you're playing Mario Party or Mario Kart, it looks the same. Handheld version or you playing on the TV you putting it in the thing to cast to the TV. It looks exactly the same. But if you play 2K or you play any sports game, it doesn't look the same.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. One, I don't remember the size of the cartridges with the gigs off the top of my head, but
It had to be small. It had
oh
to be small to fit
yeah,
that small.
it's definitely not big. But the thing that Nintendo does really well, and I'm just talking about from a developer standpoint, is file compression. So they're able to fit a lot of stuff on that cartridge because they're able to compress their files well. Whereas
Yeah.
what I found in like just listening to developers give interviews and stuff is that they don't do that. So they're not really trying to optimize it. It kind of makes me think of what it's like on prior generations. You would build a game for the strongest console,
Hmm.
or I'm sorry, I'm saying it backwards, for the least strongest console, and then port it to the stronger one because you don't have to do as much work. So, you know, PS3 and 360. I want to say, like, I know the architecture of the systems were different, but which system is easier to make it on? The 360, and then we'll port it to the PS3. We don't care, like, we just need it to run well. We don't need it to be better. That requires extra work. I think this time Nintendo will be better in terms of the architecture they have on the system. My biggest concern would honestly be the online, and that's a whole nother conversation. We probably could spend 30 minutes on that subject. I don't even want to
Yeah.
touch that one with a 50-foot pole.
I
But
mean the cross. I mean, I don't know how it worked for you, but the cross platform was actually kind of good when I played this show and stuff like that on the Switch. It was all right.
I'll just say as the MLB The Show player, when you played whatever whatever mode you're playing, if you saw that Switch icon pop up, you knew you better not lose this game. Because what on PS4 you would be able to play at 60 frames per second, but on the Switch it was at 30. So you by
Yeah.
default alone you already had that advantage. Man, losing to a Switch player was embarrassing. No offense to anyone that plays on the Switch that hears this, but like we have the advantage. Like you want to win that game. I don't know if there's an ecosystem. I'm kind of curious to see in the future. Nintendo really wants it seems like this could be the system that in terms of sports gets some love from the third parties because it's from what it looks like, it's stronger than about I don't want to say stronger, but it's about as strong as a PS4 Pro. There's some pros and cons, but it's on that level. I'm curious to see if EA says, let's bring over NHL, let's bring over college football. College football is a little bit different
I
because you said
mean,
it was the first year.
they would have to hope so because, like I said, they're already falling behind. Them and PC are falling behind. I think EA may have something against the PC guys because of the whole CFP, CFB revamped and all of that. So they may have that against them. But as far as the Switch, I sure do hope so because if they're falling behind on the third parties and EA doesn't want to bring them over, then the other third party sports games are gonna look at that and be like, should we bring our stuff over? And now you're definitely behind the eight ball.
Yeah, it's so weird to see because, like, just from the big picture, from a business perspective, you would think the more of a player base that you have an opportunity to touch, you'd want to because it's extra money, extra profit. And it just blows my mind that we just don't see PC involved at all. It, it, I kind of understand some of the arguments that have been talked about, but it just from a business perspective, you would just think like, why? Why would you not want to put it out there? It's just extra money, even if
I
it's the
I
exact
think
version.
I think it is something to do with CFB revamped. To be honest with you, they're not going to say it because they have a whole bunch of people from that staff that redid the game um, on the current staff over there at EA. They have about I want to say 6 to 10 people that worked on revamp over there at EA working on NCAA 25 and 26 now. So they probably didn't want to ruffle any feathers, but I feel like the reason it's not on PC is because of CFB revamped and how that took off. If it, I because I feel like personally, if it wasn't for CFB revamped, we wouldn't have had an NCAA 25.
Man, all that, and I understand. Like, I know it's a separate conversation with the NIL. Like, I understand about student athletes, whatever, getting paid, getting some compensation besides scholarships, especially for how much
Mhm.
money is being generated by the universities. But it's it's interesting with the PC landscape because mods are you don't get them on consoles, but you get them on PC. And when you get
Yeah.
them on PC, they can have such a huge huge impact on a game. Like I don't play Skyrim, but I was at work yesterday and a guy was just telling me about some of the Skyrim mods that he was playing. I'm like, that's pretty dope. Like it's making the game better.
Oh yeah.
And
That's why GTA 5 had the legs that it did for so long because of the mods and stuff like that. Same thing with Red Dead Redemption and some of these other games. The mods for the PC version takes over the console version.
Yeah.
Like,
It just breathes
I
extra life
really I
into it.
really exactly. I really wouldn't wanna play, for example, I really wouldn't wanna play GTA 5 on a console. I would wanna play on PC because they got so many different worlds and different areas that you can not teleport, but that you can go into in different cities that they have modded. You can be in Baltimore, you can be in New York, you can be in LA, you can be in Miami, you can be in Chicago in GTA 5, and it's still GTA 5.
Yeah. And it's like just thinking with CFP, you had no revamp. You had the or I won't even say that. Just like with Madden, you could have the Fox ticker and presentation. You could have CBS for presentation. Like I'm a big like Sim City, Cities, Skylines guy. I love games like that where you get to build your own city, develop it. The mods, like totally. I'd pay double for it to have the mods on PC versus a console version. It's that much better. Like it really is a whole new game.
Yeah, yeah, totally is a whole new game. That's what revamped was. It was basically a whole new game, and like EA would probably say, "Oh, NIL was the reason why we came back." No, I don't personally believe that at all. I feel like how good of a game revamp was, and you had all the content creators and everything like that treating it as it was a very brand new game. Like people treated revamped as a brand new game, and it was just NCAA 14 highly upgraded. That's all it was NCAA 14 upgraded to the max. And the fact that they did that, and then EA pretty much was like, "Hey, we back." And then we're delaying it because we need to get those guys from Revamped over here. We need them to stop doing what they're doing and come over here and make the game. And that's exactly what they did. And like I said, that was the main reason why NCAA came back was because of those guys over there at Revamp.
It feels so weird that we didn't have a college ball game since the PS3. Now everyone hates Sam Keller. Sorry, as a Nebraska fan.
I remember during the pandemic, I had got a PS3 just to play it.
Yeah, I still have my PSG. I look on the side. I have NCAA 08, 9, 10, 12, 13, and 14. I don't know why I don't have
Which which
11.
which NCAA do you feel like is the greatest one of all time? This will be
Well,
the last question. This will be the last question.
the
What
correct
what
answer, like Nibbler, I feel like Jeff Mo and Nibbler are just looking at me right now. The correct answer should be the one that was my first in the NDL, which I don't remember off the top of my head. I know it's on the PS2, but the one that I played the most was NCAA '04.
'04?
Yeah, I like the one. I think was it
Who
'05 or '06 that
who
had the
who was
magazines.
who oh who was on '04? I gotta think of the cover to think of the year to be actually honest with you.
Let me look it up. That
Who
I
was
know that year I played at least.
the magazine was definitely '05 because Larry Fitz was on the cover of '05. Larry Fitzgerald for
Car- Carson
those who
Palmer
don't.
was on '04.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, okay. Because I
I
remember
had a
the
ton of
magazine
fun.
was definitely in '05. Because Larry Fitzgerald was on the cover and I played the shit out of it.
Well, I'll be honest. One of the big reasons for '04 was because I'm a Nebraska guy. Uh, that was a fun Nebraska team to play with. That was a really fun. Um, yeah, that's when they were still good. So the battles with Oklahoma and then trying to continue to build to compete with Oklahoma. Yeah, man, it's so much fun. But
My
I'm pretty sure I played because every time I played offline, I would start with Nebraska and I would try to build them up into a powerhouse, and then I would switch to Kentucky, and then I would try to build them up
mm,
into a powerhouse. And it's tough because they're not as good and they're in the SEC. But the SEC isn't, like how it is now.
I,
And then I just jumped
my
around.
my favorite is '05, and I want to say '06 with Desmond Howard on the cover.
Hmm.
And then a third would be 2011, when they had the breakdown reports of your road to glory with Aaron Andrews and stuff on NCAA 11.
All right. No arguments
Yeah,
there. No arguments there. Well, I have a question. We'll table it for next week because this episode's getting kind of long. But
yeah,
it'll
oh
be
yeah,
good. Some good exercise material, some good walking material. Again, I apologize for the first like 55 minutes because I don't know how that got switched, and I don't know how I it took me this long to figure it out. But at least the second half of this episode is good on the audio, and I'll
we
make
we
sure it's
will
good for
we
next
would
week.
also hope that everybody tomorrow when it comes out, everybody listens to it. This was a good podcast.
The funny thing about this one was it's the first one where we didn't have an outline.
We did not. We totally. If For those who don't know, we do have like an outline and bullet points for our stuff. And we basically go off the bullet points. If you want to say wrestling promo style, we definitely do it like that. Um, but this time we totally freestyled everything. We had no bullet points at all.
Oh, not bad. Well, thanks for
Not bad.
listening, guys. Big thanks for being on, of course, as always, because you definitely have had to make time for me.
Oh, it's no
So,
problem. It's no problem at all, man. Life can be lifing sometimes. Trust me, I know.
yeah. Well, plan to be back on Friday. I guess would be cool. Have someone else, a third party, to talk some G5 action with. But we will see you guys later in the week.